thinking about buying a used car, maybe it's your first time looking around, trying to be smart, save some cash, compared to buying brand new.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's a really common goal and usually a good one. Especially if you're maybe a bit older, first time doing this, that lower price tag looks really attractive.
It really does. You see a price that feels, well, manageable.
Hmm.
And the idea of getting a car that works without that huge initial hit, very appealing.
Absolutely. You picture yourself getting something reliable, fits the budget, maybe even a nicer model than you thought you could afford new.
Right. But here's where we need to dig in today. We've looked at quite a few sources, reports, articles, expert warnings, and they all point to something important,
What's that?
that some used cars, even though they look like a bargain up front, can turn into, well, financial headaches. The sources actually call them things like financial black holes or money traps.
Exactly. That purchase price. It's really just the start.
Yeah.
What these reports focus on are specific models, specific years that are just, well, notorious for problems, frequent problems, and crucially, costly problems.
Costly is the key word there, isn't it?
It really is. Issues that can just stack up fast. You end up spending way more keeping the car on the road than you ever imagined, maybe even more than you paid for it in the first place.
Which completely defeats the purpose of saving money. So, our mission today is pretty clear. We're going through these sources, the ones that specifically flag used cars you might want to avoid at all costs.
Right.
We'll name the cars, the years, but maybe more importantly for someone new to this, we want to help you understand why they're considered risky. What are those hidden costs you really need to watch out for?
Yeah, and the sources, they tend to point to similar culprits again and again. You see a lot about transmission failures, electrical systems that just seem, well, prone to causing trouble, and just this pattern of unexpected, expensive repair bills.
Okay, so this deep dive is really about getting you that essential info before you accidentally buy a problem that costs a fortune.
Exactly. Forewarned is forearmed, as they say.
All right, let's get into it then. Let's unpack these warnings and look at the specific models the sources flag.
Okay, first up, we have a car that often catches the eye if you're looking for a bit of luxury without that new car price. It's the BMW 5 Series, specifically the models from 2004 to 2010.
Yes, the classic used luxury appeal. They look fantastic, feel premium, seem like you're getting a high-end car for less. So what's the catch, according to the reports?
Well, the sources are pretty direct here. While they do look good, this particular generation is known, infamous is the better word, for having really complex electrical systems.
Okay.
And these systems, they apparently love to fail, as one source put it. They're just very prone to issues.
Prone to failure. What does that actually mean for the driver day-to-day? Annoying little things.
It can be more than just annoying, unfortunately. We're talking about dashboard lights flickering or just going out completely, power windows deciding not to work, climate control acting up, heated seats failing, the kind of stuff that's not just inconvenient.
But expensive to fix, I imagine, especially on a BMW.
Precisely. Troubleshooting complex electronics in a luxury car like this, that gets costly, fast, labor rates are high, parts are pricey.
And is that the only major worry for these 5 Series?
Sadly, no. The transmission is another big one flagged in the reports for these years. Many owners apparently run into serious transmission problems, often right around the 100,000-mile mark.
Oof. Transmission repairs. We know those are never cheap.
Far from it. You could be looking at several $1,000s for a major fix or a full replacement. And like you said, the sources really emphasize that BMW parts, plus the specialist knowledge needed to fit them, are just expensive, period.
So even small things could cost a lot.
Yeah, repairs that might seem minor on another car can, as one report vividly put it, break the bank on this BMW.
So that dream of affordable luxury can, well, disappear pretty quickly with major electrical and transmission risks, plus those high repair costs overall. A clear warning for that 2004-2010 5 Series.
That's the takeaway. Okay, let's switch gears now. Totally different type of vehicle. The Jeep Grand Cherokee, specifically the 2011 to 2013 models.
The Grand Cherokee. Okay, that seems like a really solid, popular SUV choice.
Yeah.
Practical, capable.
It definitely looks the part, doesn't it? Like a sturdy vehicle, ready for anything. But the reports on these particular years, they describe it as a bit of a reliability roller coaster. Quite unpredictable.
Unpredictable how? Same kinds of issues as the BMW or different?
Well, there's a recurring theme of electrical problems again, though maybe showing up differently. Sources mention things like random warning lights popping up on the dash that don't seem to relate to an actual fault.
That would be incredibly frustrating.
It would, and potentially more serious things too, like sensors failing that could suddenly put the vehicle into limp mode, or worse, just leave you stranded somewhere unexpectedly.
Right. Being stranded unexpectedly. That's not just inconvenient, that's adding hidden costs right there. Towing, time off work.
Exactly. And similar to the BMW and some others we'll discuss, transmission troubles are also frequently mentioned for these Grand Cherokees. The sources call them infamous problems.
Infamous. Meaning pretty well known and likely expensive.
That's the implication, yes. Widely reported issues, often needing costly repairs.
Okay. Anything else notable that the sources mentioned for these Jeeps?
Yes, actually. If you're thinking about running costs, fuel economy is often criticized pretty heavily in the reports. Some even called it a nightmare. So lots of trips to the gas station definitely adds up over time, beyond just the repair costs.
So it looks capable, but you need to be ready for potential electrical surprises, possible transmission bills, and poor fuel economy. If not, the sources say maybe steer clear of that 11 to 13 Grand Cherokee.
That sums it up nicely. Okay, next on the list is one that might surprise people because it's generally seen as such a sensible, everyday, compact car. The Ford Focus, specifically the 2012 to 2016 models.
The Focus.
Yeah.
Really, I always thought of that as, the go-to reliable, budget-friendly choice.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? And for many years, it was a solid bet. But the sources we reviewed, they contain a really serious, very consistent warning about the automatic transmission used in these specific 2012 to 2016 models. That's the main reason it's on this list.
Okay, the transmission again. What was the issue with the Focus transmission in those years?
This generation used a specific type of automatic, a dual clutch system, that just turned out to be incredibly problematic. Owners reported awful shuddering from the car, gear slipping, hesitation when accelerating,
Wow.
and in far too many cases, complete transmission failure, often happening prematurely.
Prematurely.
Yeah.
Like way before you'd normally expect transmission issues.
Yes, exactly. Reports mention these major failures happening well before 100,000 miles, sometimes quite a bit earlier than that.
And fixing a transmission on a used car, that's usually coming straight out of your pocket, right? No warranty covered typically.
Almost certainly not on a car of that age, unless you paid extra for an extended warranty, which kind of adds to the cost up front anyway. Fixing or replacing this specific transmission, it's a multi-thousand-dollar job.
Which could easily be more than the car is even worth at that point.
Precisely. It just wipes out any savings you thought you made buying used. A real potential transmission trap.
Okay, is it just the transmission, or were there other issues adding to the warnings for the Focus?
The transmission is definitely the big flashing red light, but sources do also mention other frustrations, various electrical quirks, issues with door locks, sometimes things that just add to the headache for owners. It really shows how one major, costly flaw can ruin the value proposition of a car.
Definitely one where that risk of a massive repair bill hangs over it.
Mm.
Okay, moving on. What's the next car our sources warn about?
Let's look at the Volkswagen Passat now. We're focusing on the 2012 to 2015 models, and there's a particular warning about the diesel versions.
The Passat. Yeah, nice European styling, usually a comfortable ride, and people often sought out those diesels for fuel efficiency, right?
That was definitely the appeal. A comfy, potentially very economical car, especially for longer journeys. But the sources point to a pretty significant financial risk with the diesel engines from this period, mostly around the emissions system.
Emission system problems. Okay, that sounds complicated. What does that mean for someone buying one used?
It means you could be facing some potentially very hefty repair bills related to things like the DPF, that's the diesel particulate filter. It's designed to trap soot.
Right.
Well, these DPFs and the associated emissions control systems, they can fail. And fixing or replacing them isn't simple, and it isn't cheap.
So the money you might save on fuel could get eaten up by fixing the system that helps it run clean.
That's the major risk the sources highlight. And echoing what we've seen elsewhere, electrical issues are also mentioned as being fairly common on these Passats too. Faulty sensors, those annoying warning lights that just won't go away.
Leading to more diagnostic costs and repair bills.
Exactly. So the takeaway here is, if you're not prepared for potentially complex and expensive repairs, especially linked to that diesel technology, this generation of Passat might not be the straightforward money-saving choice you hoped for. Could easily cost more than you bargained for.
Got it. All right, what's next?
Let's turn to a really popular one, the Nissan Altima, specifically the model years 2013 through 2015.
The Altima. You see those everywhere.
Mhm.
A real staple mid-size sedan, often thought of as reliable. Right?
It is incredibly popular, yeah. Known for comfort, smooth ride. But the sources we looked at, they have a very strong, very consistent warning about the transmission used in these 13 to 15 models. It's a CVT, a continuously variable transmission.
Okay.
And it's frequently described in pretty harsh terms like a total nightmare.
Total nightmare. Wow, that's blunt. What kinds of problems are we talking about with this specific CVT?
A lot of owners reported really significant issues, things like the car jerking when you accelerate, the transmission feeling like it's slipping or not engaging properly, sudden loss of power.
Yeah.
And ultimately, just complete transmission failure.
How does fixing a CVT compare to a traditional automatic transmission, cost-wise?
Well, CVTs work differently. They don't have fixed gears like a traditional automatic. They're generally more complex internally. So the sources point out that when they fail, especially this particular Nissan CVT, repairs or replacements are often more expensive than fixing a conventional automatic.
So we're talking thousands again.
Definitely. It's almost always a very costly repair, running into multiple thousands of dollars, and again, highly unlikely to be covered by any warranty on a used car of this age.
Right. Any other concerns with the Altima from those years?
Some reports also flag potential engine problems for this generation, things like premature wear, sometimes issues with excessive oil consumption, which again can lead to more unexpected costs down the line.
Okay. So even though the Altima is super common and seems like a safe bet, the message from the sources is be extremely careful with the 2013, 2015 models because that CVT could drain your wallet very, very quickly.
That is the absolute key warning for those years. Okay, one more for our list today, another used luxury option. The Cadillac CTS, model years 2008 through 2011.
Another stylish one where the used price might seem really tempting if you want that upscale feel without the new car price tag.
It definitely delivers on the luxury look and feel at potentially an attractive used price. But reports on these 2008 to 2011 models talk about a kind of dark side. Primarily, it seems, due to frequent and quite varied electrical system failures.
Electrical gremlins again. What's particularly troublesome with the CTS in these years?
The sources mention issues with the infotainment system.
Mhm.
The main screen for radio nav settings, glitching out, freezing up, sometimes just dying completely.
That would be annoying.
Very. And you also get those confusing dashboard warning lights again, the ones that seem to come on randomly and can be hard for mechanics to diagnose or reset properly.
And can these electrical glitches lead to bigger issues than just annoyance?
Yes, according to the reports, these faults can sometimes cause unexpected breakdowns or other problems that mean costly trips to the dealership or a specialist mechanic who understands these complex systems.
Anything else besides electronics?
Yeah, reports also frequently mention the suspension. Apparently, the components on these models can wear out quicker than you might expect compared to other cars. That means a rougher ride and, you guessed it, more repair bills.
So if you're hoping for luxury style without constant worry and unexpected costs, the sources seem pretty clear.
Yeah.
Maybe give these specific years of the Cadillac CTS a miss.
That's a good summary of the warnings for the CTS, and that wraps up our specific list based on the sources.
Wow. Okay, so that's quite a lineup of cars to be cautious about if you're really focused on saving money long-term with a used purchase. Let's recap the BMW 5 Series from 2004-2010.
The Jeep Grand Cherokee, 2011-2013.
The Ford Focus, 2012-2016, mainly due to that transmission.
The VW Passat, 2012-2015, especially the diesels with emissions system risks.
The Nissan Altima, 2013-2015, with that problematic CVT.
And the Cadillac CTS, 2008-2011, with those electrical and suspension issues.
And looking across that list, the common threads seem pretty clear, right? Based on what the sources say.
Yeah, absolutely. You see these incredibly costly transmission failures popping up again and again, complex electrical systems that just seem destined to cause headaches. And then, especially with the luxury or European brands, just high costs for parts and labor even for smaller things.
They might look like amazing deals just looking at that sticker price on the lot.
Exactly. Which is precisely what often catches the eye, especially if you're buying a used car for the first time, maybe later in life, and you're really focused on that initial outlay.
But as these sources hammer home, focusing only on that purchase price, it can steer you straight into one of these cars that becomes, well, a total money trap.
And that really leads us to the most critical piece of advice from all these reports, especially for you, the listener, if this is maybe your first time navigating the used car market. What does knowing about these risks mean you absolutely have to do?
It sounds like before you even get close to falling for a car's price or how it looks, before you sign anything.
Yeah.
The sources are absolutely unanimous. You must do your homework. Research that specific model, that specific year.
Yes, and crucially, you absolutely must get a pre-purchase inspection. Find an independent mechanic, someone you trust, not connected to the seller, and have them give the car a thorough check-over.
That inspection sounds like your best defense, doesn't it?
It really is. A good mechanic can often spot the warning signs, maybe feel that transmission shudder, see evidence of electrical issues, check the suspension wear, things the seller might not tell you or might not even know themselves. It costs a bit up front, sure, but it can save you thousands, literally thousands down the road.
And that really brings us to the core message from all these sources, doesn't it? That critical aha moment for anyone buying used, maybe especially for the first time.
What's that?
That the money you think you're saving today on that lower purchase price, it could very, very easily end up costing you far, far more in unexpected budget-busting repairs tomorrow.
That initial saving can just evaporate. And then some, with one major breakdown on these specific problematic models we've talked about.
So the lesson really is, be informed, do that research, get that inspection, make sure the used car you choose is a genuine saving over its whole life with you, not just on day one. Be smart about where your money goes.